Welcome to Everyone Loves Guitar, where we get to sit down and talk with interesting professional guitar players and related music industry experts. If you love playing guitar, stick around. You're in the right place. Hey everybody, this is Craig Garber from Everyone Loves Guitar, and we have a really interesting guest today. He's a singer-songwriter guitarist, and let me preface this by saying right up front, he's not like the normal singer-songwriter guitarist. He actually plays the guitar really well. He's an excellent finger picker, and he's just got a really cool style. And I really loved his music, so I was really happy to have Wilder Adkins on the show today. He's from Marietta, Georgia, and he lives and writes in Birmingham, Alabama today. Grew up listening to his dad play renditions of Neil Young and Van Morrison songs on an old Guild Jumbo acoustic. Some time spent in India helped to expand his melodic sense and also provided a chance to learn Hindi. Adkins' songs, steeped in natural imagery, frequently touch upon the subjects of faith, doubt, and as the title of his new album would indicate, hope and sorrow. Wilder was the grand prize winner of the 2016 New Song Music Performance and Songwriting Competition. He was a featured performer in the ASCAP Foundation's Songwriters: The Next Generation 2017 showcase at the Kennedy Center. And he was a winner of the ASC Commission's Birmingham Song Contest in 2014 with his single Side by Side. Thank you for coming, man. I really appreciate your time.
Oh, yeah. Thank you.
So your most recent record, Hope and Sorrow, I was beautiful. There's no other way to say it, man. And it's got a really nice mix of both acoustic and electric songs on it. The flow of the songs and the order of the songs and how you arrange everything, it's just perfect. And
yeah.
And I would encourage everybody to go listen to the album. Again, it's called Hope and Sorrow. And be forewarned, if you just sit and listen to the music, and if you're in the moment, I'm promising you're going to cry listening to some of those songs. They're really beautiful. His voice is very soothing, and he does a really good job of conveying emotion in both his writing and his playing. And I wanted to ask you a few questions specifically about the record. For the most part, a good portion of the record is just you singing and a guitar. It's just you and a guitar. It's pretty raw. Mm-hmm. And I was wondering, is it intimidating to be that vulnerable, both as a musician and emotionally, to put stuff out like that, more so than when you're surrounded with a band?
I don't think so. Not for me, anyway. And I know it's probably just a personality thing. Like, I feel really comfortable on my own, and that's how I started out. And I actually get more uncomfortable playing with a band and being a band leader because I'm not good at telling other people what to do. Even if I know they're there because they want to be, I still have a hard time, being like asking other people to play on my songs, and donate their time and that sort of thing. But yeah, it was weird to me. I remember thinking that when I was watching on TV about when Johnny Cash came back, and started doing his like American recordings, and he was saying how nervous he was to go and perform like by himself because he'd always been with a band. And I was thinking like, Johnny Cash gets nervous, and Johnny Cash gets nervous to play by himself, and that's kind of like, that's where I feel most comfortable. I think even now, like, I have a pretty good band now, and I've gotten better at it, but still, like, I know that I can kind of count on myself, I guess. So when it's just me and a guitar, that's kind of where I feel most comfortable.
What about it? Is it like telling people what to do, or what makes you uncomfortable having other guys or, people? Yeah,
telling other people what to do, and also like not being sure that while I'm playing, I'm kind of like listening to what they're doing, and maybe it's just that I haven't done it enough, but it kind of like takes me out of the moment trying to think like, wait, what's the bass player doing right there? Is that what we practiced, maybe it'd be different if I had like really excellent players, but yeah, just I guess just that's how I started out, just playing by myself and like coffee shop type environments. And
So, like, when you have to function more as a producer, you lose the sense of connection maybe with the being in the moment of the music a little bit?
Yeah. And like I said, I think the guys I'm playing with now, like, we're able to kind of get in a groove and I'll have fun with it. But yeah, I guess definitely like when I write songs, it's always like solitary. Like I've never really co-written anything, and I don't really go jam with my band and we'll work up a song. It's like, it's all very like solitary work. And so even like bringing a new song to a band and not being able to, I can't even really put into words like how I want things to sound, you know? And I don't speak like drummer talk. So it's hard for me to say like how I want the beat to sound, but mostly it's just like, no, I don't like that. No, I don't like that. Can we try something like softer or more open? You know, I kind of have to give those kind of descriptors. But I like working with, you know, real creative drummers, because the standard rock beats don't work well with like finger-picked music, because I'm already basically doing like a backbeat with my thumb.
Yeah, exactly. Do you think this is part of like, so how many albums have you put out?
I guess like 3 full lengths and then a couple EPs.
Do you think this is part of like your growth process? Like, you know, the next record, should you do that? You know, maybe be a little more comfortable being able to shift hats, or, you know, like, is this part of your evolutionary?
Yeah, I think, definitely like each album I've made, I've brought in a few more kind of people to help and other instruments. And so, yeah, I think the next stuff I'm doing might have a little more of like a full band Americana type sound, because I've written a lot of songs like that are maybe more a little like upbeat and have a hook to them, and just never had a chance to record them. But so I think the next thing I'm going to try would be something like that.
Interesting that you say that, because so maybe, I don't know, like I know myself, I've gone through, you know, you as a person, you grow. I'm like a lot older than you probably, but, and, you know, maybe it's part of your change that you're now looking to do more upbeat stuff, you know. I mean, I know you change over time. It's just the way it is. You have a thought process, and then and then maybe sometimes you go back. But I would say, because upbeat is not how I would categorize Hope and Sorrow, you know.
Oh yeah,
great album, beautiful. It's in my rotation, but it's not, you know, it's an emotional record, very much, for sure, you know. Did you play acoustic and electric on this record? Was this all you?
Yeah. Trying to think. The first track, Dreamer, the first guy I was working with, Pete Hicks, he played the electric on that. Mm-hmm. But then, like on the last track, Wrestle, the main guitar is an electric guitar, and I was playing that one.
That's a great track, and we're going to talk about that one. Let's talk about a few of the tracks. When I first met you, I don't know how I think somebody referred me to you, but I
think it was Jacob Blunt.
Jacob, yeah. And I found When I'm Married. There's a song called your song When I'm Married, and I was like crying.
Oh yeah,
because it was like it was beautiful, man. And then when you looked at the video, I was just, you know, so if you can talk about the making of this song, what prompted you to write it, and what were you thinking about?
Yeah, I think that's a weird one, because I wrote it maybe like 8 years ago, and it was pretty much the same lyrics, but it had a different melody at first. And I played it maybe a couple of times, and like I say, it is like a very kind of sincere sort of love song, and so it's kind of hard to put into the world at first and be unsure how people would take it. But I played it a couple times, and, you know, not much response, and I kind of shelved it. And then I don't know why, but I was just sitting around looking at some of my old lyrics, and I started just playing it with this new like melody and this cool finger picking part, and all of a sudden it like clicked together. And that's never really happened for me before, where I'll take a song and totally change the melody and it just sounds better. But so I started playing it out. I remember I played it at this one kind of like house show, and it was outside. This guy would set you up like on the porch of his shed, and all these people set up lawn chairs. And so I kind of introduced the song and I played it, and people were kind of laughing like, oh, here's this young guy wrote a song about marriage. But then after I was done, like they literally gave me a standing ovation, and I was like, maybe I should keep playing this one.
Yeah, I got something here.
Yeah.
It's just a beautiful. I mean, I'm teary-eyed now just thinking about it, to be honest with you, because it's a really, it's just a powerful song, man. It's just really good.
Yeah, I think what I was thinking about, or I was kind of thinking about marriage and realizing, like my parents are divorced. Lots of my friends' parents are divorced. Mm. When I grew up watching, like Disney movies, Hollywood movies, and you kind of get in this mindset of like, oh, marriage is something magical happens, like when you say I do, and then after that it's almost like you can hear each other's thoughts, like you're so connected. And then as you grow up, you start to realize, wait, that's not really the case, and marriage is actually a lot of work, Yeah. And you have to like put in a lot of work to make it happen. But if you just write a song called like "Marriage is Work," that's not very romantic.
Yeah, nobody wants to. It's like saying go to the gym to lose weight. Exercise to lose weight. Nobody wants to hear that.
I think that's kind of what I do on the album as a whole. Like I talk about something tough, but at the same time, I put the hope back in there. So it's like marriage is tough, but like it's a good thing, and we're gonna stick with it. And when we're old, I'm still gonna be there for you. That sort of thing.
Well, I've been with my wife 25 years, and I don't know how I've been just so blessed, lucky, serendipity, but that was like my marriage, man, because we have that thing, and it's like so unique, and that's why it was so touching to me, because I'm like, and I felt very grateful, which I always do feel grateful for that relationship. And it was, and it is work, but it's like all the magic is there. And like, it's, the most amazing experience I've had in my life. And so I really was like, riveted. And you wrote it, you were single, and now you are married, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Everything.
Now I'm like 2.5 years in, so I'm an expert now.
How's it going?
Yeah, not really. Yeah, it's going well, and we have a 10-month-old baby. So
congratulations.
Yeah, wasn't really the plan to start that early, but it's kind of cool too. It was one of those circumstances I was like dreading a little, like losing all my time and freedom. But now he's like my best bud, and just such a chill baby, So. And
how old are you?
I'm 33.
Oh, that's you're. I think it's a good time. I think it's. That's not. I had my first. I was 26, and I was not. I think 33 is a better age. I think you got your stuff, or 31 or 32, however old you are. I think it's a better age to have a kid. A little more. You're a little smarter. Let's talk about the video. Did you have any input in the video with that? And do you know how the illustrator, like what prompted him to use those two little mice? That's what makes it so cute. It's like,
oh yeah,
it's adorable, man.
I'm in a Facebook group with some other like writers and artists and things like that. And so the guy who made that video is named Ross Boone, and he kind of goes by the artist moniker Ross Boone. But he posted a video that he made for another band and was saying like, what do you guys think about this? And I watched it, and it was it's not like animation, it's called live drawing, and the drawing changes as it goes along. And I was like, that's really cool. I wonder how much he would charge to do one for me. So we started talking about it. And, I'd seen some of his other videos, and I was like, I would like for this, story to feature a couple and their kind of ups and downs. And I also think it would be cool if it was maybe cats, and we talked about it, and cats were maybe like going to be too difficult to draw, with much detail. And so we settled on mice, and I think it worked out. And I was like, I told him, go ahead and make it sad. Like, I think one of them should die at the end. And so I just kind of let him draw it, and he kind of put together the little details in the story, like a cat comes and scares them, and they have to like take refuge in a church and all this kind of stuff. And it's funny to watch people's reaction the first time they watch it, because at first they're like, oh, cute little like mice, video, and then they start to get drawn into the story, and even I do. Like, if I watch that video, I'm like, I kind of feel guilty for creating something that, makes people cry, but at the same time, like, making people connect with art is a really cool thing to see.
Oh yeah. Can I tell you, I've never made it to the end of that.
Oh, really?
No, I have never made it to the end of that, because I always get so overwhelmed with emotion that I don't watch the end. So I'm glad now that you tell me one of the mice dies, I won't watch it. But I've showed it to like all my kids and stuff, and my wife, and it's really good. Everybody just check it out. It's Wilder Adkins, Adkins, and go on YouTube. It's When I'm Married. Beautiful, beautiful song and beautiful video. What guitars did you use in that song?
Let's see. I think I'm just playing the main guitar part on a Seagull, and I'm not sure of the model. It's kind of it's a big guitar, kind of a fat dreadnought, and then kind of all the lead line stuff you hear is me playing dulcimer, and I played it like 3 times, and with just my fingers, and then I also played the same thing over again with a slide.
Oh, very cool. Spell that, Seagull? I don't know much about acoustic guitars. I'm more of an electric guy.
Oh yeah, it's like the bird.
Seagull.
It's a lot of people call it like Canada's Martin or something like that.
Okay, so it's a Canadian guitar.
Yeah, I don't think they're as old as Martins, but actually, that guitar a friend gave me because he had it, and he was like, "Man, I don't even really play guitar anymore. Just take this." And I was like, "Oh, okay."
Wow.
So I had it set up, and it plays really nicely now.
It sounds wonderful, man. Wow.
Yeah.
Talk about Smoke Signals. What's that song about, and can you tell me the backstory to that?
Yeah, I think I had a lot of these kind of songs or feelings of like unrequited love, and just my personality wanting to be able to like talk to someone and not finding the words, they're not coming out right, and also feeling like maybe this person is not getting like the best impression of me, and there's like this kind of smoke between us, like what you're seeing of me is maybe not what I meant to represent. And so it was kind of a song of just like longing for someone and like trying to get through. And then so I gave it in the second verse kind of a happy ending that like never really came about in real life. So it's almost like a fiction, but yeah, that one I really like. I was proud of that melody, and that chord progression is pretty cool.
Yeah, it's great. I loved it. There's some drums, and you have background singers and a bass guitar in there as well. And like, what is your decision-making process about, how do you decide, okay, I'm going to put a percussion here, I'm going to put, in this song, it's just going to be me and a guitar, in this song, I'll have background singers, and this one, just a bass or dulcimer.
Yeah.
How do you, like, because it sounds great. I'm just curious, do you have a formula, or how do you kind of figure that out?
Kind of happened in different parts. I had this idea when I was recording that I wanted to make the next Astral Weeks, which is a Van Morrison album.
Yeah, I know that album real well.
Yeah, where he just got into the studio with like jazz musicians and was just like, man, just play along and don't get in the way. And so I actually got my friend Macy Taylor is a great bass player, and he knew like this jazz drummer that he played with sometimes. So I got them to come in to the studio and play along, and I couldn't get like the drummer to play anything that felt right, so I just said, just play as basic as possible. So he just basically did like a very basic beat. And then so when I finished it up actually in a different studio in Atlanta, working with this guy, Tim Friesen. And he was great to work with because it was just the two of us. We're like, we're going to finish this album, and anything else that needs to happen, we'll just do it ourselves. So it took that very, very basic drum beat, and then I got into the booth with some drums I borrowed from my brother. And I'm not really like a drummer. Like I can't play a kit because I don't have like the foot and hands, coordination, but I can play a beat. And so I went in there and I added little like snare drum fills and like would hit the tom. And so we kind of built up the drum beat over top of what the other drummer had already done. And all the backup vocals is me too. And that was just kind of, we're like, I think it would sound cool to do almost like a Motown sort of thing here. So I just went in there and tried a few things, and we're like, oh yeah, that sounds cool. Let's layer it. And so I think sang like 4 parts, over myself basically.
Oh, wow.
I think, and I would have used other people if we'd had the time, and if, most of the friends I know who could help were probably in Birmingham, and we were recording in Atlanta. So it was just one of those things like, yeah, I'll just do it myself. And yeah, the way that song turned out is almost more impressive, knowing that like, we just pieced it together almost, and it works.
It's great. It's one of my favorite songs on the record. Our Love is a Garden, another full band song, and it was really beautiful. What was the backstory on that one?
That was another song, I think, thinking about marriage, and I think maybe can't remember. No, I wasn't quite engaged yet, but that song I was already dating my current wife, and that's the one song in the album that I kind of wrote after we had started the recording process, so kind of like in the studio. And it's just a song about another song about marriage or relationships, only this time the metaphor is like a relationship is like a garden that you have to keep tending, and you can't just let weeds grow everywhere, but you want to like till the ground and put the seeds in and like take care of it. And it's a year-round work, because even when it's not like harvest season, there's stuff to be doing to make it reach its full potential, I guess.
You mentioned earlier, you said your folks got divorced, I think. Mm-hmm. Do you think that your observation of that, of their separation years later, and you looking back, because all these things you're saying, they're correct. You do have to take care of your shit, basically. You have mm-hmm. to. I always say marriage is like a business. If you stop working, it stops working. And do you think you looked at that relationship of your folks and looked back and said, hey, these are the mistakes, and I think this is my summary of what it needs to be? Do you think that experience?
Yeah, I think I've heard other people with divorced parents talk about, like when you're growing up, you try and figure out how can I do things different and not let that happen to me.
Sure.
And so I always kind of approached it with a real seriousness, like wanting to almost like plan ahead so that I won't make mistakes. And then, in the end, we all end up making mistakes too. Like sure. I wanted to do the same thing with like fatherhood. Like I'm just going to go ahead and figure out now how to be a perfect parent, yep. so that when I do have children, I'll be ready. And then once they get here, you're like, this is not what I expected at all. But still, it's good to kind of think about it and try and, try and figure out, how to do things different, I guess, how to make it work.
Yeah, I think having that awareness, I think just having that awareness gives you an edge. Gives you a fighting chance of doing those things. I know it did with me, and I've certainly made mistakes in both my marriage and in raising my kids, but I always tried to have the awareness of the wrong things that I might have experienced and not repeat those, and that was really helpful to me anyway.
Yeah.
Wrestle. So you make a 7.5 minute song, man. My comment here was, wow, what did you write it originally like that? Did you know it would be that long, or once you started playing and you had these breaks in the middle and a couple of different bridges? And
I'm trying to remember writing that one. I came up with that lick at the end and just was playing it over and over again. I'll be like, this would be a cool album closer if I just draw it way out and kind of do a fade out sort of thing, because I love that kind of track. Really only works at the end of an album, and
totally
you put it in the middle.
Totally.
But so that was kind of the plan.
In the old days, sorry to cut you off, it would have been the end of side one. You could have done
but A side.
Yeah, that's a perfect close though, or the end of usually the end of side one is you hear stuff like that, or the close. That's right. But now there is no A side, so
yeah.
But that was great. On your electric, the distortion on there was good. I was curious what guitar you were using and what was the effect, if you remember.
Yeah, I wish I remembered, because that was not even my guitar. I still don't own an electric, but so I always have to borrow one. But that was the guy I was recording with. Pete just handed me a guitar, and then he went and fiddled with some pedals and the amp, and we're like, yeah, that sounds good. So I just played. Yeah,
it sounded great, man. When you put out a song that's longer like that, is there more uncertainty about how it's going to be received, or no more than any other song?
Yeah, I don't think I worried about it. Not more than any other song. Probably because, one, it's couched at the end of the album, so you're thinking, the people who make it to the end are probably fans.
They're qualified prospects to listen. Yeah.
And two, that one's just that one was really fun for me. There's a band that I was always a big fan of called Aradhna, Aradhna, and they're kind of this band of white guys that do like Indian music. And the story there is that the lead singer, and he also plays sitar, grew up in India and Nepal, so he's fluent. And I think studied at Berkeley for like trumpet or something like that, but then started playing, like, he plays guitar and sitar, and so that sound at the end is kind of me emulating them, and so actually Pete, the guy who's helping me record, was in Aradhna. He's Aradhna's guitar player.
Oh, perfect.
And then Travis, who plays bass, lived in Atlanta, so we called him up, and Travis came in and laid down bass on that track, and then the tabla player lives in like Ohio or something like that, but there's a thing tabla players can do where it's like vocal tabla, so it's called bol, B-O-L, and they'll do the sounds, they can imitate the sounds of the tabla with their mouth, and so it's like da 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 da, and so he recorded to my track and sent it to me, and we put that in the outro there as well. So it's almost like a Aradhna reunion happening, on my track. So it's kind of like wish fulfillment, and we just had a lot of fun with it.
Yeah, I love that song. I like long songs. I really like that as a great closing. The lyrics, "I won't run, I'll wrestle." What was the backstory and the meaning of that?
Yeah, it's really a song kind of about just like having faith, and I think a lot of people, when hard times come or like bad stuff happens, need an answer right now. Like, I need an answer, or I'm going to cut and run. And to me, I think, I don't know that we'll ever get like all the answers, in our lifetime. So I was just holding on to this notion of like, I'm all right with a little uncertainty doesn't mean that I need to just give up everything that I know. So just that lyric, I won't run, I'll wrestle. And it's kind of a reference to, there's a Charles Wesley hymn that references a Old Testament story about Jacob wrestling an angel, and he's like having this epic like wrestling match with an angel like all night long, and neither one of them is like giving in. And at the end, Jacob just like holds on. He's like, I'm not letting you go until you like give me the answers I'm looking for. So I just thought it's kind of a crazy story, and I thought it would be cool to kind of reference that as well. Like
give a nod to that story.
Mm-hmm.
Very cool, man. I really enjoyed that. Most of the songs on the record definitely match, the theme of the record's name, Hope and Sorrow. And I found the songs very sweet, very melancholy, but they did all offer a sense of, redemption and optimism for the future. Yeah. If you're comfortable sharing, where are these emotions coming from, and, what types of experiences or childhood or whatever did you go through to generate the emotions behind your songs? You already discussed some of the stuff with your parents' divorce, and anything else that you're comfortable sharing.
I think, I don't know, I heard someone say that like poets experience the world differently. And I think the kind of hidden meaning behind that is it's more just like sensitive people kind of experience the world differently, and like little things that maybe other people get over can kind of stick with me for a long time, and maybe to my detriment. But I think it's kind of like the clam turning something into a pearl, it's like some people can either let it drag them down, or you can kind of take these things that kind of hurt you or affect you and kind of try and turn it around into art, and so art being therapy almost. It's like a way of just working through feelings. And I don't know, I'm just kind of so introverted and like solitary a lot of times. So it's not really any great like trauma, but just a lot of like wanting to maybe be able to reach people and wanting to like to know and to be known, basically. And so just kind of putting all of that into feelings, really. That album is probably like my whole 20s going into an album,
Yeah. Well, you did a great job, man, and I know a lot of other people that have listened to that definitely appreciate. And the fact that you are so introverted that you are coming on this show and talking, I mean, hats off to you, because it's not easy to open up about this stuff especially if you're an introverted. So I really, really thank you.
Oh yeah. Well, I like talking about myself, so
there you go.
Most people do.
A lot of people do, yeah. What are you working on now that you're excited about?
So, yeah, you mentioned in the intro that I won this the new songwriting competition, and that was last December. But one of the prizes of that was that I get to go and record at Echo Mountain Studios, which is in Asheville, North Carolina.
Cool.
And so a lot of big names have recorded there. It's a cool place. So I've been up there once and kind of laid down some tracks with a drummer, and I think some of them we're going to keep, some of them I'm not so sure. But yeah, just like that, the producer's been kind of busy, but so I'm looking forward to getting back up there and kind of working on that album more. And so that one, yeah, is some of that more like upbeat or like catchy stuff that I was talking about.
It's funny. Asheville is there's a ton of musicians who have come out of Asheville. Mm-hmm. Warren Haynes is the most famous, but there's loads of really good musicians come out of the Asheville area. It's prolific.
Yeah, I think Bon Iver lived in Asheville for a while. Justin Vernon, guess he's from Wisconsin, but yeah, he was down in Asheville, and then I think Appalachia Rising, Avett Brothers, a lot of them have recorded there too. So it's kind of a good hippie community.
Very much so. Yeah, I was there about 2 years ago. It is pretty much a hippie community. Where are you originally from, and where'd you grow up?
Yes, so I grew up outside Atlanta, Marietta, Georgia, so kind of a suburb of Atlanta. And pretty nice place, though. I like it. My mom still lives there, and we have a mountain, Kennesaw Mountain, so there's some nature to go and explore, and there's a cool downtown square left over from the 1800s. So I like downtowns that still have, I don't know why new communities don't build squares. They seem like a cool feature.
I agree.
Making architecture that lasts. So much new stuff is just, this is going to look old and dated in 20 years. So.
Well, it's funny. My wife is from the UK. When you go to England, any town, even she's from a tiny town. There's even towns smaller than that. They all have a central square, and every Saturday or Sunday, there's always, like, all of them. There's a fair, not a fair, just like
market day.
Yeah, it's so freaking cool. I love that, man. It's so cool. I love that, and I don't know either, because it's like I agree with you. It's such a. It's just cool to do, man. Not only that, but it connects the community. I mean, there's other benefits outside of, like, commerce. It's just a relaxing thing to do. I agree with you there, man. You mentioned your mom. What kind of jobs did your parents have as you were a kid growing up?
My mom's a elementary school teacher. My dad worked for Delta growing up.
And they're hubs out of Atlanta, I'm pretty sure, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. So that was nice. We got to fly for free up until I was out of college. So
yeah, that's really cool. That's a great.
Yeah.
Did you go any cool places? Did you guys go any cool vacations?
Yeah, we traveled a lot when I was young, and so I went to Alaska, I think, when I was in first grade, and we went to England for one spring break and that sort of thing. So went out to see the redwoods, Yosemite, and all that.
So talk about India. How did that come about, and what made you go there? When was that?
Let's see. That was in 2007. It's been like 10 years. So that was kind of in between college and grad school. I applied to grad school late, so I kind of missed the boat on financial aid, and I was looking for something to do with this, like, lost year of my life that I was like, I don't want to just work at Michael's arts and crafts store for, the next year. So I kind of reached out about some, like, volunteer opportunities. Is there a way that I could go do something exciting? And so I knew this guy who knew a guy, with this, like, organization in India, and they're like, yeah, you can come over and help us set up our library. So I went over there and I kind of worked cataloging books at a library on this seminary campus. And so I was living on campus as part of this community, and, got to spend time with the students and the faculty. And they also had a mercy home on campus, so kind of like an orphanage. And I would go over, and it's like they treat you like such a special guest in India. They used to bring me my meals to my room, and I was like, I don't like eating by myself. So I would just go and eat with the kids at the mercy home, basically. And so that's where, like, it helped to practice your language skills, because kids will talk to you whether you understand them or not. So they'd be talking to me in Hindi, and so slowly, I would study and practice and begin to pick stuff up. So it was, of all my life experiences, that's probably, like, one of the biggest, most, or just one of the coolest experiences that I've had living over there.
What did you get out of that? What made it so rewarding for you? I
don't know. Being this kind of young guy and going over there, and because you're from America, people treat you differently. Like they think you've got your stuff together, and this is an important guy because he's traveled so far. And I'm like, I'm nobody basically. I've got a bachelor's degree in English, and I haven't really done anything with my life. But it was almost like I began to see that everyone feels like that, but you just kind of take a step out and say like, well, these people are treating me like I'm a leader. I'll start acting like one. For a while, you just kind of wait for a moment to happen where you can start to feel like confident and start to feel like a leader. And then I think everyone eventually just has to realize no one's going to bring that moment down to you on a silver platter. You just step into it. You step into like what you want to be and what you want to do. So
yeah, there's no. I do a lot of consulting, and one of the like kind of lines I have is like, the success fairy is not going to come knocking on your door. If you got to tell yourself that you're good at what you do, or in your case, in this situation, you got to just be the leader. Exactly what you said.
Yeah, like I've listened to a few of your podcasts since I found out I was coming on, and yeah, a lot of the other artists have just talked about like hustling. You just got to get out there and hustle. And make it happen, basically. Because you can practice all you want at home and be like the best guitarist in the world, but you still have to make those connections,
Yeah, totally. How did you get exposed to music in the first place?
Yeah, my dad plays, and I played piano when I was in elementary school. I took lessons for that, and I was pretty good. I could sight read well, and then we moved, and I had to stop. It was too far to see my old teacher, and I never picked it up again. But I think I always had like a gift for melody, and I used to be the kid on the playground who would like write parodies of songs. So I was kind of like, I thought it'd be the next Weird Al,
Yeah, that's what I was thinking of when you said that.
But then like when I got to high school, and it was like. I don't know, that's when I started getting more kind of like melancholy. And so then it was about trying to put those kind of feelings into words. Mm. But yeah, I started playing guitar when I was 15, and I think it was, probably like a lot of guys, I wanted to impress girls. So
yeah. What prompted you to sort of like who did you listen to when you were a kid? Who were your musical influences growing up? What kind of music did you listen to?
Yeah, my dad played a lot of folk music, and I think for a while I was into ska music. But really in high school, when I started to get into Ryan Adams was writing his first album's like really beautiful, called Heartbreaker, and his style of guitar playing on that album was different than what I was used to hearing. Like you said, people just strumming, but he would have all these like hammer-ons and embellishments in there. So that kind of influenced the way I started to look at guitar. But then I started listening to people like Elliott Smith is a great acoustic player and finger picker.
He's the next level beyond melancholy.
Yeah.
I don't know that word.
Yeah. I can't listen to him too much anymore because of that. But just like, I so admire his gift for melody and arranging and just his guitar playing. And then there's two other guys that I was really into. Richard Thompson, the British guitar player. Yep. And Bruce Coburn is a Canadian guy who's also a great fingerstyle player and songwriter. So those two guys really influenced me. And it's funny when people ask like who my influences are. Most of the time, they don't know who I'm talking about. So then I'll just have to say like Van Morrison,
Bob Dylan.
Yeah, which I really love. I really love those guys too.
Yeah.
But Van Morrison kind of influenced the way I think about recording and putting together an album, like, because I'm not quite into the pop sound where everything is pristine and perfect. I like things having like a rough edge to them. So even when I record like a solo or something like that, I'll just try and record it several times, and each time, I'm doing something different, and I just wait till one feels right,
Yeah.
I don't quite arrange things, and I love listening to Sufjan Stevens, but I think his brain must work differently because everything has a right place, and everything is just arranged so perfectly. And I'm kind of like, I want to throw stuff against the wall and like hope that magic happens.
You do a really good job communicating, like just, your words. I know you majored in English, but there's a big difference between majoring in English. Communication's different animal. Mm-hmm. Where do you think you got your communication skills? Oh, let me say this. Let me paraphrase that. Where do you think you got your communication skills to communicate your feelings like that in words?
Part of it, I think, is maybe just like a gift. I think in metaphors a lot of times. So the best way I can think to explain things is like to use a story or a metaphor a lot of times. But I also did study poetry in college, and I think that helps. I think a lot of songwriters don't do that. Like they listen to other songwriters and then that's as deep as it goes. But I was reading I used to read Indian poetry, which kind of influenced, why I was interested in going to India. And there would be these very short poems that got to the point very quickly. And a lot of times it would be just an image, but you would know what the poem was saying by that image. And kind of these very sensual poems as well. Like there's this poem about this woman had scratches on her back and everyone in the village knew why. And then I had to read the footnote. It was this is a reference to she was making love out in the jungle and they were, being so vigorous that they scratched each other.
Right.
And it was that's an interesting way to use images to convey meaning, and how can I do that, in our modern language, I guess.
So if I were to ask your wife if you're as a good a communicator in person as you are in music, what would she say?
It's absolutely not.
So I'll ask you, how come?
Oh, I don't know. I think for me, getting the chance to think about it for a while helps. I'm not as good, not as good at talking as I am at writing, I think. And two, there's still I can say something really romantic in a song and get up and play it on stage. But to me, saying something like that face to face it's a lot more difficult and intimidating. And maybe it's funny because I know there's a lot of guys who probably big and tough and then would be scared to get up on stage and be vulnerable like that. So yeah, it's just weird that kind of opposite in a lot of ways.
Age will change that. If you want to change it, age will definitely change that. You get more comfortable. Yeah, for sure. It did with me anyway. What's your best childhood memory?
Let's see. I don't know. I remember going to Yosemite as a kid and getting to stand among the redwoods and just thinking that was so cool. I don't know. I think I must have like appreciated nature a lot growing up, because I put a lot of that in my songs now. I try to.
Yeah, your songs are very earthy, for sure, man. Tell me something about yourself people would either be surprised to hear or would find a little odd.
Yeah, I think because I'm so quiet, people don't expect that I'm actually a pretty good dancer. So I kind of love surprising people with that. Like,
dude, I saw your video on Facebook.
Oh yeah.
I think it must have been like your dad's, like, I think it was your dad is like, "Where's my grandson?" or something like that, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that was quite funny. That was quite funny. That's good, man. So you're a dancer.
Yeah, I've got some rhythm.
Most important person in your life?
Yeah, I guess it would be my wife and son now. So trying to do my best for them,
Sure. What's your non-musical superpower, Wilder?
I was thinking that it's probably like I'm good at kind of getting on my wife's nerves in like more and more creative ways.
Come on, man. Share the details of this. This is interesting.
When she's like tired or had a long day, like she just wants to like sit on the couch and like recharge, and I seem to just like, when she gets home and like I've been hanging out with a kid all day and I all of a sudden have this like burst of energy, and I don't know, I was like a younger son and she was the older sibling in her family. So it's almost like that dynamic, coming back into play. And I'm like the younger brother, like just getting on her nerves. And it's almost like I can't stop myself when I see she's getting annoyed over like simple stuff. It's like, I can't just like let it go. So I just like keep pushing and pushing,
When you said the last question, you said your wife and son were the most important person. I was thinking, man, make sure you play this for your wife. I'm not really sure now.
Oh yeah.
maybe not so much.
She knows. Yeah.
Do you have any hobbies or interests outside of music?
Yeah, for a while I was making soap.
Oh, wow. That's a very Asheville thing to do.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah. I don't know why things like that, where there's lots of different variations or like ways to make things different. I think the way that my brain works is I like to see what's there and tweak it a little bit. And so I can't cook, but with recipes, a lot of times I'll see something and be like, well, what if this had cinnamon in it or something like that? And like, I thought it would be funny to take a plate of Rice Krispie treats to a party and have them be like curry flavored. And so I looked that up online, and it was an actual thing. Like, there's a restaurant in Chicago that has like curried cashew Rice Krispie treats.
That actually sounds kind of good, to be honest with you.
Yeah, and so we made them one time, and it turned out well. But I love like thinking of like ways to tweak things, and so soap is another one of those things. Like, once you get into it, there's like, soap is basically fat or oil, and you mix that with lye, and the process is called saponification. But you can use so many different kinds of oil. Like, you can use all olive oil, or you can use part olive oil, part coconut oil, part sunflower oil, and each combination has like different effects. Like, some are more moisturizing, some are more drying, and so they're better as like detergents or maybe shampoos. And so it was interesting just kind of learning all about it and then coming up with like fragrance combinations. But Yeah, like where we live now is not a good space for it, and plus having a baby, you don't really want to be messing around with lye and creating fumes and stuff. But
well, how come you're in Birmingham? Is that where your wife's from, or?
Yeah, I went to college here and just kind of stuck around afterwards because Atlanta is such a big city and the traffic is so bad. I never really loved going downtown there.
Yeah.
But Birmingham is really easy to get around, and there's this renaissance going on right now. A lot of the older neighborhoods are being revitalized, and tons of great new restaurants, and even like New York Times and people in the past year have been writing articles like 10 cities you should check out that you never would have thought to visit, and like Birmingham is always like on those lists. So it's kind of cool to be a part of that.
Is that where you know Jacob from? Because he was in Birmingham for a while.
Yeah, and he was my roommate for a little while.
That's why I figured you went to college together.
Oh, yeah, this was after college. Yeah, because he went to Auburn and I went to school in Birmingham. Okay. But a mutual friend introduced us, and then he and his brother had an extra room in their house, so I lived over there for a little while.
He's a really nice guy. I'm actually going up to Nashville next week, so he and I are going to hang out for a bit.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, very cool guy. Hey, I'm going to ask you 3 more questions. I really appreciate all your time.
Yeah.
If you can go back in time and do one thing differently, either in your business or in your personal life, what would that one thing be?
I think something I'm learning is I'm good at making excuses. Like for Christmas, I'd ask for lots of little things instead of why not get the best audio interface that I can get and learn to use it really well and mess around with that. But instead, I would just complain man, it's so hard to get a good sound with all this cheap equipment that I have. But I think, something I'm learning is if something is your passion, don't buy lattes, don't buy new clothes, go after the good equipment that you need if it's going to help you do what you need to do. So I think that's something that I could have, learned 10 years ago, maybe.
Yeah, because it's an investment, really. You get a return on it. Toughest decision you ever had to make, or the hardest thing you ever had to do?
I'd say getting engaged was pretty hard for me, not because I don't love my wife, but it's just those kind of big commitments, when you're used to overthinking things and commitment's not a problem because I don't want to be with someone, but because your mind scares you into the unknown. And also saying yes to one option is saying no to thousands of others. But that's one of those things where you have to realize that's no way to live a life. You see these guys who are 45 and still don't know what they're doing with their lives, and I don't want to be that, and still just my social life is going to shows and hanging out till 2 a.m. Every night of the week. So
yeah, that's a burnout way of living, man. That takes its toll on you. Last question, man. What are you looking forward to in the future, either musically, professionally, or personally?
Yeah, I've got 3 or 4 projects in the works, and that's always it's kind of a frustrating situation to be in. Artistically, it's hard to feel you can move on to the next thing until you finish what you're working on. But at the same time, it's a good place to be in, just knowing that there's still a lot more to put out into the world. And so I love getting feedback from people And it's crazy. Like, I'm not very popular in Birmingham, but I get messages from people in like Brazil and Australia, and I've gotten a fan letter from Japan before. And so, like, with the way the internet works, kind of making the world into this global village. I just love that I can reach people all over the world. So yeah, looking forward to getting some of those projects done so I can just share them with people.
Awesome. Hey, listen, man, I can't thank you enough for your time. How could people find you? How could people listen to your music? Let them know. How could they send you money? All that good stuff.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I've got a website, wilderadkins.com, and also on Facebook as Wilder Adkins, and Instagram and all that. I think the most recent things that I put out was a single called Side by Side, which was a song I wrote about Birmingham and kind of the civil rights movement, and then that album Hope and Sorrow. And so they're all on iTunes, Bandcamp, Spotify. So, I'd love it if people buy it on Bandcamp, because that probably gives me the most money. But even if you just go on Spotify and save it, that also helps put it into the analytics, so it gets shared with more people and like Discover Weekly and stuff like that, or just share it with your friends. The important thing is, like, I'd love for people to hear it and spread it around. So,
well, man, I would encourage anybody that has ever been in a relationship or is in a relationship to go listen to the album. It's Hope and Sorrow. It's a truly beautiful record. I am not someone that cries a lot when I hear things, but this made me teary-eyed, especially that song When I'm Married, like every time. In fact, I was struggling talking to you about it earlier, to tell you the truth. So thank you so much, man. I really appreciate your time. Thanks for being on the show. You're the most outgoing, introverted dude I've had here. So kudos to you, man.
Appreciate it.
No, man, thank you. Check out Wilder Adkins. It's Wilder, Wilder Adkins, Adkins, on YouTube and all the social media channels, Spotify, iTunes, and all the rest. I want to thank everybody for listening. I hope you enjoyed this interview as much as I did, and thanks again to Wilder Adkins for spending this time with us. I really appreciate it. Go to everyonelovesguitar.com, sign up to get notified about future episodes, along with some cool stuff for guitar players. Now, be nice, go play your guitar, and have some fun. Till next time, peace and love, and I'm out. We hope you enjoyed this show. If you did, subscribe to the Everyone Loves Guitar podcast, and you can do this online at everyonelovesguitar.com or on iTunes. And if you like the show, please leave us a 5-star positive review. The more 5-star reviews we get, the higher our show ranks, and higher rankings mean we get to continue speaking with cool, interesting guests on our show. We'll see you on the next episode, and until then, keep playing your guitar and have fun making music.